Apparently, I was on a vampire kick this year. A considerable amount of books that I read in 2025 were about vampires. So I thought it would be fun today if I took a look at all those books and ranked them from my least favorite to the one that I liked most. Right out of the gate, I know that a lot of people love this book, but I could not stand the characters in this one. So Interview with a Vampire is bottom of the list for me. Sorry if that's your favorite book. Next up is Carmilla, which I read on my Kindle. This is like the OG vampire story. It actually predates Dracula by a few years. It was a really good book, but I'm putting it lower on the list because everything else was just better. And while we're talking about Carmilla, the next one on my list is actually a retelling of that story. Hungerstone came out earlier this year. This is a much more female rage focused retelling of that story. And in this one, the character is older, so there is an adult, mature relationship between the character and the vampire. This just felt a little bit more entertaining than Carmilla as a modern story versus one that's well over 100, 150 years old, so this one beat that one out. Next up was the Southern Book Club's Guide to Hunting Vampires. I don't feel like I have to give you a description of this book. It tells us exactly what we need to know in the title. This was a fun read, but it didn't change my life. Now we're on to my top 3. If any of you have been keeping up with the other books that I've been reading this year, this one may come as a surprise, but Salem's Lot by Stephen King comes in at number 3. I loved this book. I highly recommend this book. Stephen King is a great writer, and this is his take on vampires, but the other 2 were better. Number 2, I already mentioned this one in passing. It is Dracula by Bram Stoker. It's a classic. I will say that this book was a little long-winded. I kind of feel like it should have been a little bit faster paced, and I did kind of rely on audio to get me through while I was reading this one. But this is the iconic classic vampire story. It was great. I loved the characters. I think if you are a fan of horror at all, that this is required reading. And in first place, the best vampire book that I read this year was Buffalo Hunter Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. This book blew my mind. It's totally different than any vampire story I've ever read. It takes place in the 1800s out west, where we have a Native American vampire who is confessing his sins to a priest. It was a very unique story. I loved how we took the classic European vampire lore and turned it on its head and looked at it through the lens of Native Americans. I thought Stephen Graham Jones did a great job writing this book. My only complaint is that some of the scenes felt like they were a little slow, but it was worth it in the end. I absolutely loved this book. Alright, that's it. If you've read any of these books, I'd love to know what you think about it, and if there are any vampire books that you think I should put on my list for 2026, I'm all ears.